There's a sentence almost everyone over 50 uses when talking about the retirement plan to help them feel safer. It sounds reasonable. It even sounds responsible. People say, you know what? I'll just work a little if I have to. But here's the uncomfortable truth regarding that line. That's not so much a backup plan as an assumption. And that assumption doesn't always work. For a lot of retirees, that assumption stops being true just about right at the exact same moment when they need it the most. So this video, it isn't about motivation. It isn't about hustle. It's not even whether or not the jobs will even exist when you need it. So this video is about why part-time work often fails structurally, not just for you personally. So this way of looking at retirement appeals to you. So just subscribe so that you don't miss the next assumption that we're going to pressure test. And by the way, at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you a 3-step process to identify what the right side gig is just for you. If this were risky, it wouldn't sound so calm. I'll just work a little. It makes its way through all the planning conversations, all the decisions you're making about retirement, because it doesn't sound like a decision. So when you think, I'll just work a little, it sounds temporary, it sounds optional, and that decision, it sounds like you can easily reverse it. So when you're working through a typical financial plan, things like the markets, well, they get modeled, right? Healthcare gets debated. The cost of housing gets discussed again and again. You see, but that sentence slides through untouched in all those conversations because it sounds comfortable, not like it sounds like the foundation for success for your financial plan. So that's why when individuals or financial planners hear that sentence being used in your financial planning process, nobody pressure tests whether or not it'll really work. So for all of us, we imagine future work using an old system. Think about when it came to making money. You needed more money, you worked more hours. Work less hours, you made less money. So we think about part-time work and retirement in much the same way. Those hours have to be modular, they're proportionate to the amount of work, and the schedule should fit my schedule. But retirement, it changes that system underneath those assumptions. You see, your income, it no longer stacks, right? Income has to replace effort. You see, in replacement, that behaves very differently than when you can stack your income. So the work itself doesn't disappear, but your expectation is what changes. As that money starts coming in on a regular and frequent basis, it doesn't feel additive. Quite frankly, the money coming in and the work that it takes to earn that money, it starts to become disruptive. So that part-time income in retirement, in order to be worth it, it has to be consistent, it has to be scheduled, and the hard part is it has to conform to somebody else's schedule. So now that extra income, what is it? It introduces expectations, deadlines, and cycles into your schedule. So the income itself, it didn't block work. It just raised the bar for whether or not that income and the time feels justified. So here's the thing to get your mind around. Flexibility is set by the job, not the retiree. So envision in your mind some of the part-time jobs you might have in retirement. Those part-time jobs usually run on weekends, they follow office hours, they depend on perhaps client availability when they can be met with, and they can spike seasonally depending upon the job. So those things, they don't collide with ability, they collide with your new retirement life. All of a sudden they collide with things like travel, family rhythms, and quite frankly, even your own energy level. Most people don't want to dismantle their life for a little extra income. That's not failure, right? That's just a little extra friction in your retirement life. What surprises most retirees is that retirement, right, doesn't create emptiness. It actually creates a structure in your day-to-day life. It creates a schedule. So routines harden, expectations settle, and your day-to-day life, it begins to take shape. So all of a sudden, when those things happen, work has to fit in life, not the other way around. So due to that, there are fewer jobs, fewer roles that can be plugged in cleanly into your life. So people aren't surprised that, hey, they've retired. What they're surprised by is that flexible option they thought would be there. Well, it's still there, but it has to fit inside a much smaller box than they expected before. So the cost of working in retirement, it doesn't show up right away. In fact, it shows up later as fewer roles that match your criteria. The hours you can work, you're not willing to work as many of those hours get restricted, and there's fewer trade-offs between extra money coming in and what you're willing to sacrifice in this new life you've envisioned called retirement. So it's not part-time work that was eliminated. What it turned out to be was constrained, and was constrained by design long before your retirement. So you see, this is where people ask the wrong question. When they ask, hey, would I be willing to work in retirement? The real question that we should all be asking is, will this work be compatible with the life I'm building now? So if your retirement plan doesn't make that visible to think about, it's not wrong, but the math is incomplete. So part-time work, it isn't a fallback. It's a design choice that earlier decisions that you made were either designed to protect or, unfortunately, quietly shrink. So you don't need to decide today, but you should be aware that the decisions and the options you're considering will affect the viability of working part-time in retirement even now. Okay, so here's that 3-step process to help you identify the right side gig or part-time retirement job for you. All right, first thing is, don't depend on what you see on social media. Forget Facebook, forget the commercials, forget the gurus and the masterminds. Find a group of people. You're gonna look for 12 people. 3 are people who worked for you, 3 are your peers, and 3 were bosses who you reported to, and 3 friends, right? 12 people all together. You're gonna create a very short questionnaire. It's gonna ask things like, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think I should do for part-time work? What skills do I have that people recognize that I might not even know that I have? What do people come to me for when it comes to advice? What's a topic that I can talk about immediately without any preparation, any thinking whatsoever? You're gonna go through Gmail, create an anonymous letter, send it out to them, right? They're gonna fill it out and come back to you anonymously so they can be more comfortable and confident in your responses back to you and that they won't offend you. You're gonna get that back, and that data is gonna give you insight about yourself and different retirement jobs, side hustles that you should think about that are an easier leap, an easier way to get into versus something where you have no experience, no industry, or will cost a whole lot of money. That's where you should start your side hustle, your retirement job, part-time at. So this video, it wasn't about whether you should or you should not work in retirement. This video's intent was about visibility, because it's the assumptions that feel harmless that surprisingly almost cause the greatest amount of permanent effect in our lives. So in our next video, we're gonna pressure test another really common backup plan that people rely on in their retirement, and that's the belief that staying in your home always saves money.